With the first steps of the startup journey behind them, and having successfully secured funding after determining the marketability of the core idea, a company then takes its first steps into the market. Here, they hope to turn their idea into customers and ultimately dollars. This is the growth phase, and is where the startup determines if their idea is repeatable and ultimately scalable. To put it simply, can the company take their idea beyond their initial buyers and grow it to national or international level sales?
First year, you're in operations mode. You have students for the first time, you have employer partners and university partners for the first time. You're figuring out if the engine can hum. Then you're thinking about the next phase, how to fine tune that engine and make sure that you can bring more people onto the team and go from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 in terms of your partners and what you're doing.
I think you have to be able to translate, you have to be really clear about what the value proposition is and what moves people and how you can get ordinary salespeople to actually repeat the results. That could be through marketing materials or through direct sales efforts or online conversions. There are other times it could be through a viral social media campaign where you're getting people kind of involved with your program. It can be through acquisition. At FoodMaven, acquisition is part of our scaling strategy. So there are a lot of different ways to scale. It kind of depends on the particulars of the business. But you've got to be able to go from those early kind of religious buyers, those religious conversion experiences, to something that's kind of more mundane and repeatable.
So I remember the day that we had a number of student conversations and realized how many of them, they were students disclosing to us, we haven't actually completed high school, but please don't tell my boss, please don't tell my company. I know this program was rolled out as a college program, but do you have anything to help me complete high school so I can then go to college? And that conversation and then 10 like it were what inspired us to actually start a high school completion program and to add that to the Guild catalog and then to seek approval from companies like Chipotle to help support that program. So those moments are the ones that stand out for me where they've really shifted where we're going. And today, high school completion is one of Guild's fastest growing programs. In fact, I found out yesterday that we've had over 300 graduates just this year.
The first step was we just started in Colorado Springs alone. And for the first year or so of our existence, we were just purely in Colorado Springs. Then we expanded to the Denver market, opened up operations in Denver, and treated that as kind of one entity. Part of what we learned as we went along is it made sense for us to acquire companies because of the facilities they had, because of the book of business they had, and to be able to convert them to our model via our technology and our leadership and our brand. So we then made a first acquisition initially in Denver because that gave us the ability to assimilate that company, but it was a car drive away versus an airplane flight. And now we're in process of buying kind of a next company in Dallas. And then the model is for the balance of the year to acquire 5 more companies in 5 more geographies, and then to continue that pattern, on for a number of years.
And then the next phase is, well, how big do you want to be? And you design yourself and you structure your company, your organization, your funding, et cetera, quite differently if you have the conviction and sometimes a little bit of crazy to believe that you can be something that is national, scalable, and greater than what you can imagine from day one.
So here's the reality about the U.S. food system. It's a $1.5 trillion system. I mean, it feeds all of us. And there are literally somewhere between $200 and $300 billion a year of food that's getting lost. So there is an enormous amount of room for us to grow, not just geographically, but in terms of the impact that we can have in the food system, and to ultimately be kind of a transforming presence. So that's where, when I say it's going to take a long time, 10 to 15 years to accomplish this big thing that we're about is, we've got a lot of growth in front of us.
So Guild is growing at a pretty exponential rate, which is really fun, really daunting, and a challenge every day. We expect to double the size of the team here. We tripled the team last year. We're going to slow down a little bit and just double this year, but that's still feeling pretty daunting. So we'll probably start creeping up towards 500 employees this time next year. But more importantly, we plan to grow the business a lot more than that. And like any year, it's important that the business grows more than the headcount. And so the business is growing at an exponential rate as well. And the way we're doing that is by growing the size of our student base with our existing clients, companies like Walmart, Disney, Discover, Lowe's, as well as bringing on many new corporate partners who are excited about the opportunity to provide education to their frontline workforce. And we're working to figure out how might we scale this to millions.
This growth phase comes to an end in its own time for each individual startup. When the business is thriving, has regular sales, and can stand on its own financially, it ceases to be a startup and moves into the third and final phase of the life cycle, maturity and liquidity.